So next we are going to hear how one business, BPAY, is doing that and how it has helped to revolutionise the payments experience for consumers in Australia. So please welcome BPAY Australia's Chief Executive, John Banfield.
Thank you. Well, I don't know if Steve's in the room. He might have escaped into the other room, but I wanted to thank him especially for the invitation today to be back home. Yes, I am a Kiwi, and I'm delighted as a New Zealand export running Australia's largest bill payment service. Being a massive rugby supporter, I moved across to Sydney in 1998, and it was pretty tough for the first few years, but since 2003 it's been bliss. I wanted to share some insights today into the transformation that's occurring within the Australian payments environment, and that's largely predicated on what David was speaking about earlier, and that is the change in technology. And interestingly enough, I attended a presentation recently of a guru in human resource, and that particular lady was sharing about the change in innovation and what that was going to do to jobs that exist now and potentially jobs that do or do not exist in the future. So I don't know how many people in the room have children under the age of 15. So she shared with me that kids that are under that age today, in their career lifetime, will have 16 different jobs in 9 different industries. And that really just shocked me, given I've been predominantly a payments person. What she did also share is that one of the things that you can really help your kids with in today's environment growing up is to teach them how to code. And I don't know if you've seen, but GE are putting all of their employees through coding classes. My own children have been invited to attend coding development classes at a very early age. So I just leave that with you as a piece of information. But what it really does suggest to me is that technology is both very simple and very powerful. And the way in which I can represent that to you is that I was recently watching my 12-year-old twin boys teach my 78-year-old mother-in-law to use different apps on a smartphone. And I was amazed at how quickly she got it. And that was simply because of the simplicity in the way in which she was being taught by 12-year-olds. And what it did illustrate to me is a really important idea, that the most powerful innovations are the simplest and most intuitive. Great technology shapes itself to us and our needs rather than us shaping itself to it. In fact, the greatest innovations are the ones that we take for granted. So intuitive, they're almost invisible. Now, for us as an industry, that really does present a challenge. We need to create payment systems that are as powerful, immediate, and as responsive as a smartphone or an iPad. Now, today we have devices that we can control with a gesture. Cars that do the parking for us, soon driving for us. Phones that we can talk to and that talk back to us. When we want to call someone, we ask for them by name. And I was thinking about that the other day, and my mother lives in Christchurch. I have no idea what her number is. And I don't know if that resonates with anyone. Best friends, parents, kids, you ask or look up their name rather than their number. We don't need to necessarily remember a whole series of numbers. Yet, when we want to pay someone in Australia, we still need to remember 14 special digits we use for no other purpose. If we want to explain what the money is for, we have to cram our explanation into a message 8 times shorter than a tweet. And we still have to wait, sometimes days, before they get their money. Now at BPAY, we're determined to change all of that, and we aspire to lead Australia's transition to the new payments world, and that transition is already underway. This new world will consist of the development of a real-time payment service called the New Payments Platform. You've heard it all this morning. And this will really shape the future of Australian payments. And the very first service on the NPP will be the Initial Convenience Service, or ICS, being developed right now by BPAY. But first, I'd like to talk a little bit more about BPAY and why we're so intimately involved in this ongoing transition. Interestingly enough, 8 out of 10 Australian adults have made and used BPAY in the last 12 months, which is pretty phenomenal coverage. I'm not sure you all know how BPAY works, but in simple terms, BPAY is a networked payment scheme, effectively the same as a Visa or MasterCard, except for domestic purposes. And it uses a database of businesses identified through a biller code. Every financial institution in Australia is a member of the scheme. And that scheme enables payers, whether they be consumers or businesses, to make payments to a business with absolute certainty. Now, what you might not realise is that we think we play a pretty critical role in the Australian economy. In fact, we're a great example of that powerful but nearly invisible innovation I was talking about just a few moments ago. When BPAY was first launched in 1997, millions of Australians were paying bills online when the most widely used payment technology in the US is something they call the bank cheque. Since then, BPAY has grown to become one of the most powerful or popular payment channels in Australia. In fact, over the last 10 years, we've processed more than 2.4 billion payments worth over $1.9 trillion. We've also sent around 86 million bills via BPAY View. Effectively, a biller can send through an aggregator bills directly into someone's internet banking environment, receive their bills in that environment and be able to pay those bills online. And we have 1.2 million people registered to receive their bills online today. Now today we process between 1 and 5 million transactions a day worth anywhere between $1 and $5 billion every single day of the year. So we think we occupy a pretty special role in the Australian payments ecosystem. In fact, we believe we're perfectly placed to help the system evolve into the next generation of payments. That's because we see ourselves as an enabler rather than a competitor. We exist to provide unique, commercially valuable, innovative solutions to our member institutions at the lowest possible cost. We help them serve their customers better, and we give them the opportunity to innovate by building on the services that we provide so that they can add value and, in fact, gain a competitive advantage. But while we don't compete with the banks, we're certainly a part of the banking system. That's important because it means we know how to provide value within the existing network. We also know how to extend it. So we think we're perfectly positioned to help Australia's consumers, businesses, financial institutions and government realise the potential of the new payments platform. So what is the NPP? Well, put simply, it's a brand new payment platform, and I'll emphasise the word platform. It is fast, well, it will be fast, won't it, Michael? It'll be fast, flexible and data rich. And this is a strategic initiative by the Reserve Bank of Australia. The NPP is currently being developed in collaboration with some of Australia's largest financial institutions, ready to launch in 2017. Now, once it's complete, it will open up a whole new world of possibilities for Australian businesses and consumers. Okay, so to understand why and why I was emphasising the word platform, let's just take a look at how the NPP is going to work. Now, the MPP has been very deliberately designed, as I mentioned, a payment platform, not a payment product. The platform itself is effectively the infrastructure, not just technical infrastructure like networks and messaging, but it has a central addressing service, which is an alias service. It houses aliases that could be a mobile number, it could be a tax file number, it could be a business registration number, it could be an email address, as an example, that's linked to your individual bank accounts. And that's all been built by Swift. And then that's linked to a fast settlement service that's been built by the Reserve Bank of Australia. The fast settlement service enables the payer and payee to transact in real time through that fast settlement service, where the RBA will be providing that service 24/7. Now, providers like BPAY build services on top. These are called overlay services. And the overlay services, like the first three services, the initial convenience services, have their own domain that are of the customer promise and the end-to-end customer experience. Now, it's this deliberate separation of infrastructure and services that is designed to encourage both competition and innovation. It opens up the system to multiple parties, and it allows our members, consumers and businesses to choose from the best possible solution in an open market of services. Now, why is that important? Well, I like to think of it as the difference between, say, a 1990s Nokia and a modern smartphone. You can take a smartphone, you can add an app from any provider you want to do the things you want to do. The only limits on its usefulness are the imaginations of 10,000 separate app developers all vying for your attention. Whereas a Nokia is just good for making calls. As I mentioned, a platform encourages competition and innovation. It opens up the system to multiple parties, and it also allows consumers and businesses to choose from the best possible solution. If you think that sounds, well, I certainly think it sounds a bit like the service that BPAY already provides in the marketplace today and offers to our financial institutions. In some ways, BPAY works very much like a platform, which is one of the reasons we feel we were a natural choice to bring this first service online. Now, in developing the ICS, we bring to bear all of our experience in developing and managing, as I mentioned, a networked payment service used right across Australia. We also add value through our existing scheme structure, a structure that guarantees a consistent customer experience and service promise, but which also gives financial institutions a valuable foundation for building their own competitive offerings. In the same way, the initial convenience service will be a foundation banks can use to compete by adding value-added services. Now, I think that's a positive for everyone, including consumers. Now, we feel we bring other strengths to the table as well. Certainly a strong brand that's nationally recognised with an established reputation for both simplicity and reliability. Australian consumers and businesses already know BPAY works. They trust us to deliver every single day. So what will the initial convenience service look like? I'd like to show you a short video that will show you just what Australians can expect when it comes online next year, and also give you a peek on what some of the end user experience has been as they comment on the new service.
It's a really good advance in payment systems that we really need at the moment.
I thought it looked amazing.
It just integrates everything that I already use for banking.
I like that it's got everything in one place. You don't have to grab details of people from emails or texts. Everything's just there.
This I see as a time saver in chasing up payments and making payments.
I think it's fantastic. I think it's exciting, it's innovative.
Well, I loved it. I wanted it right now. I don't want to wait however long it's going to take to get it.
People forget. I have to go back and check with the roll, who was there, what payment was matched with what, and now it would be instant.
That's worth a fortune to me.
Instant payment is genius.
I love it. I can't wait for it. I want it tomorrow. I want it yesterday.
So I think it's pretty impressive. It might be a little hard to understand on the video, but I personally can't wait for the new services to come online next year. Now, what you may have noticed is that there are 3 services wrapped into one. So let me just explain all 3 services. The first service that you would have seen is instant payments. So soon Australians will be able to simply pick up a smartphone to instantly pay a friend, a small business, or even the babysitter. Now, as long as they've registered, all you will need to do, and all they will need to do, is to be able to put in a name, a number, or an email address as an example, to be able to send that payment to someone. So the great example I looked at this morning was David and the nappy example. One friend paying another $25 for the nappies that arrived in 5 hours. That payment can occur in 20 to 30 seconds. That friend has got the other friend's mobile number or email address and can push that $25, see it go out of their account, that $25, and the friend can see it go into their account, that $25 within 20 to 30 seconds. Now, you can also send 280 characters of information as well, which is more than 20 times more than you can today in Australia. The second service is instant B2C and B2B payments with an attached document. Now, this is great for governments and businesses who need to be able to send detailed statements or other information with their payments. So no more overnight batching, mailing checks or waiting for funds to clear or statements to arrive in the post. And a great example of this may be payroll, batching payroll out to employees with a statement attached. Dividend payments out to shareholders with a statement attached. Or government paying maybe disability or some other payments out to the general public. And then the third service is what we call request and pay. So soon Australians will be able to send a message to multiple people asking them for a payment and explaining why. Again, in full 280 characters. They'll be able to respond instantly with the funds in just a few taps, and a good example of where this can be utilised today is a plumber has just finished doing some work at your home. He sends a quick piece of information on the activities that he's undertaken and pushes the request to you for payment. A sports club collecting membership fees, or in fact just a group of friends sharing a dinner tab. So that's what the ICS will deliver: intuitive, real-time, data-rich services. But what will it really mean for both the payment system and the Australian economy? Well, I think there'll be huge benefits for both consumers and the economy. The reality is that the ICS will revolutionise payments in Australia. It will propel us back into global leadership in electronic payments architecture. As a foundation for new value-added services, it will kickstart innovation. And in fact, I'd even be prepared to describe it as the biggest leap forward in electronic payments since the launch of BPAY almost 20 years ago. Now, all of you in the room would understand the central, often underestimated role payments play in the economy. The ICS and the value-added services that will be built on top of it have the potential to make a real contribution to the economic efficiency and productivity. To take one important example, and we talked about the elimination of cheques, I believe the ICS will go a long way towards replacing cheques and significantly cutting low-value cash payments. So if you work for a financial institution or represent a business, ask yourself how much you would actually save through the elimination of cheques. And how much does it cost a small business to handle, to process and reconcile thousands of small cash payments? These are the benefits for the economy, but what about benefits for both the consumer and also businesses? Well, consumers will have the ability to pay anyone in real time at any financial institution from anywhere. Payers need know nothing more than someone's name or number as an example. Alternatively, the consumer can still use the service by using the traditional BSB and account number. And they can be confident that the payment service is fast, secure and reliable. Again, me transacting to Richard Miller from Deloitte, because I have his mobile number and he would have registered, payment can be transacted within 20 seconds. Small business will also benefit from faster payments and easier reconciliation. So they'll have better cash flow, waste less time chasing and reconciling payments. And importantly, it will be as simple to sign up and start to use, integrated into digital banking platforms. Large corporates and Australian governments will also benefit. They'll now be able to make real-time payments with or without a statement included. They'll have the security of knowing that both the payment and the accompanied documents have been delivered safely with a complete audit trail. Not left in a mailbox, not lost in transit, with no more cheques left uncashed or lost and reissued at considerable cost. And no more customer support calls from customers trying to find out what the payment was for. And I believe that clients will be delighted by the service's speed and reliability. So there's lots to do before the new service comes online and launches late 2017. We have already completed the planning and the design of the first 3 services, and we're now in the program delivery phase of the project, writing business rules, finalising the solution architecture, and creating a go-to-market strategy. We're also in the process of building a new extension brand with a new name, logo, and advertising strategy. Because I'm not a great fan of a product or a service called the initial convenience service. So we've got to Uber it a little bit and come up with a new name. So I'll look forward to sharing that in time. So what else does the future hold for BPAY? Well, being a Kiwi, I'd love to have BPAY operating here in New Zealand. So maybe there are a few people in the room that may be able to help. I know there are a few people I recognise that we've talked to over the past year or so, but it is really a fabulous service, and I think there's an opportunity of being able to extend it to other countries, and I think New Zealand would be a great example of being able to take it elsewhere. However, in saying that, the service formerly known as the Initial Convenience Service is an important first step for us, but it's only a first step. We see the MPP as a key platform for both BPAY and the Australian payments industry. So we're absolutely delighted to have been selected to build the first 3 services onto the MPP. However, we aspire to become the overlay provider of choice as the platform develops. Now already we're actively developing a pipeline of services for the new platform. We're also developing and extending our existing services. In both activities, we have one really important advantage, and that's the modular Lego brick architecture of both the MPP and the way in which the ICS has been developed. Each block has been carefully designed so that it can be rapidly configured for the next range of services, including those that we have already planned and those that we're yet to imagine. So once the heavy lifting has been done, we'll be able to add on new services quickly, efficiently, and with comparatively little investment. And you heard this morning in one of the panel discussions about the significant investment that the banks are making in bringing to fruition the NPP. Well, yes, there is a big investment, upfront investment, and that's largely due to the legacy technology that most banks are operating in today. And I think it is a very worthwhile investment in that engine. And it's the overlay services that provide the value-added services right across the top that will come in many different forms in years to come. So look, we believe that's great news for us, for BPAY, but we also think it's great news for the Australian payments industry as a whole. BPAY is designed to not necessarily compete with members, but to help them actually compete more actively. And by giving them the tools, we think that they can create the payment services of the future. And we can help, we think we can help our members, their customers, and the economy as a whole. So that was all I had. So thanks for listening.